Following God isn't always easy or popular, but we are not called to please people, we're called to please God. Let's focus less on building a life centered around our own personal happiness and focus more on living in a way that we can one day hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cameron. I'm excited for today's conversation about living with purpose because we know that our lives here on earth are really short, and we're going to dive into some scripture about that, and I'm just excited to have today's conversation. Before we get into it though, I'm drinking a vanilla latte with cinnamon. If you watch any of my videos, you know that's my go-to when I go out to a coffee shop, so I'm excited to try a version that I've been working on at home. Once again, you can barely see it in my cup, but I promise it's there. I made my own little vanilla syrup with sugar, water, vanilla, and salt, and then put some cinnamon in it. So let's take the first sip together. Not bad at all. There is something about warm cinnamon and that flavor and just the aroma. It's so cozy and amazing. 11 out of 10. Before we get into scripture today, I actually want to start with a funny little story. So my husband works at a church, and so he has his own little office, and the other day I walked into his office and he has a lot of decor on the walls, just like cute little quirky things that definitely go with his personality. And one of the things that I noticed he had recently put up was this piece of paper, just like a regular size sheet of paper. On this sheet of paper, it had a 90-year human lifespan, and it was represented by little dots, and each dot was supposed to represent 1 week. As you can imagine, there's tons of dots on this paper, and so it was supposed to show you like how many weeks are in an average 90-year human life. And so my husband had this picture or this paper on his wall in his office, and he had crossed out however many weeks that he's been alive so he could see how many weeks he had left until he reached 90 years in weeks. Whenever I saw that, I kind of laughed and I was like, that's actually really sad. Like, it looks like this countdown or something till the end. Like, that's really sad. And my husband said, it's not sad, it inspires me. And I thought it was so interesting that he said that, and he just said it's a cool reminder for him of his time on earth and how for a lot of people 90 years might not even be guaranteed. Like, we really never know. And so he just said that was his cool perspective of thinking about things and just living with purpose and having his priorities right. I thought that was really cool, and him and I are different in that way because I don't know if I would have a poster like reflecting 90 years within weeks, but it is a really cool thing to just put in perspective how human life is actually kind of short. In correlation with that story, let's read James 4:13 through 15. Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. Scripture describes our life as a mist that is here for a little while and then vanishes. Other translations explain it as a vapor. I pray this verse urges you to live with purpose, really considering what matters most. Just like Zach's wall decor in his office, I don't think that this verse is meant to be something that is sad or depressing, but it's supposed to inspire us and urge us to really live with purpose. Verse 15 kind of challenges us to get this heart check of who is really the authority in our lives. Who are we serving? Who are we bowing down to? This says that you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. Since we were created to have a relationship with Him, it only makes sense that we would continue to fall under God's authority and to consider Him in all of our ways. As Christians, let us use our lives to love God and to love people, to go and make disciples, sharing the gospel with others. You can go and love your neighbor today. You can go be the hands and feet of Jesus. Let's focus less on building a life centered around our own personal happiness and focus more on living in a way that we can one day hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Instead of being bound to a comfort zone, remember the peace that God brings. And remember that He will never leave you. Following God isn't always easy or popular, but we are not called to please people, we're called to please God. And by the way, I think there is a lot of joy in living closely with the one who created you. And when you follow Him, you're doing exactly what you were created to do. I really believe the enemy wants us to waste our time. He wants to distract us, he wants to discourage us. But this passage in James kind of reminds us how short our lives are and that we do have purpose and we do have beautiful things that we can be a part of here on earth. We just need to make sure that we're focused, make sure that we're ready, make sure that we are turning to the Lord and looking to serve Him and follow Him and obey Him more than anybody else. I pray you can have boldness and courage to make the most of your time and of every opportunity. Life is truly a gift from God, so let's honor Him with how we spend it. Don't forget how great God is and how He is able to work out beautiful things with those who are willing. Through your job, through your family, even through a simple trip to the grocery store. These are all opportunities to love God and to love people. I want to close today by sharing a story from when I was in high school. This is kind of a cool way that God opened my eyes and kind of taught me something in regards to this topic right now. I have always kind of been really into plants and flowers, and I think I was planting flowers. I had a couple different areas around my parents' house that I was intentionally planting them. They were in these little cute pots. The main ones were outside, and so I had put them on our back deck, and I figured that was the best place for them. And then I also had some indoor little pots as well that were like inside our kitchen window. What had happened was that there was a lot of rain in a span of a couple days, and I was not being a very good plant mom, flower mom, whatever. Basically, my flowers had kind of like drowned, and there was really no coming back from that. They had died. It was very sad because those were my flowers. I'd put a lot of time into them, and I was excited about them. They were my outdoor ones that I was most excited about and I thought was gonna do really well. So meanwhile, my indoor flowers that were safe from the flood, they were doing really well. They were thriving. Those flowers were definitely clearly meant to be inside, but I just wasn't very good at all that. Those were kind of like my backup flowers that I was not as excited about. They were kind of just the afterthought. I think I just had more room inside, or for some reason I put those inside, and they were thriving. They were doing well. And it really opened my eyes to how God can kind of be working things out in a different way than what we might expect or hope for. But ultimately it turns out beautiful because He was in control anyway. He knows best anyway. And I still carry that story with me, and just that life lesson that we might have plans for outdoor flowers. God might be working indoor flowers out for our good, and we might not see that or believe that or want that at first, but ultimately He knows best. I don't know, I think that's a cool story of how I was fixated on one thing, but the backup option and the plan B was actually working out for the best. And I think it's just translated into my relationship with God a lot, and just learning to trust Him and how we can make plans, but we should always consider the Lord in our plans, and we should always trust Him if we feel Him leading us or directing us in different ways. Cheers to living with purpose, because we know our lives are short. Let's always consider the Lord in all that we do, because we can trust that He knows best. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!